Hello, everyone. My name is Ariella Wagner. I'm the founder of SunRay Construction Solutions. We help thousands of general contractors, subcontractors, and suppliers secure their lien and bond claim rights. Today, we are very lucky to have Lynn Thompson, an extraordinary attorney that has been practicing law for over 26 years and is I have to add, a brilliant attorney, again, on construction lien law, litigation, business contracts, and if you read her resume online at bizlawyers.com, you would just be blown away. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the incredible Lynn Thompson.
Well, hello, everyone. This is my very first webinar. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I have been practicing for a very long time in construction and government contracts. And my presentation today is on a relatively new lien law for Mississippi. This program focuses on actually getting your lien filed, but executing on a lien and suits to enforce a lien are the topics of other webinars. So here's our, got to have a legal disclaimer, of course. All right, Mississippi. Until 2014, only prime contractors had a lien right, and then all that changed. And I, along with a couple of other construction lawyers in Mississippi, we wrote this, what eventually became the statute. So in order to have a lien right in Mississippi, you've got to be a contractor, meaning you have a direct contract with the owner or the lessee of the property. If you are a first-tier subcontractor, meaning you have a direct contractual relationship with the contractor, so first-tier subcontractor, you have a lien right. Also, if you're in privity of contract with a subcontractor, down to the second tier, you have a lien right. Also, materialmen. This is defined in our statutes as those who provide equipment or materials that get put into the job. So if you are a materialman to a subcontractor or a materialman to the contractor, you have a lien right. So our laws protect, they provide lien rights down to the second tier. Now, what is the lien for? It's a right to attach to the real estate of the owner a lien right for the value of the labor, services, materials, or work that's provided. And you don't have to be providing it at the direction of the contractor only. It could be the owner, a design professional, contractor, or a subcontractor. But the lien is only for the amount that's actually due and owing under the contract that you have, whether that's with the contractor, the owner, or whatever. So it's just the amount that's due and owing. And in Mississippi, you can have a lien based on an oral contract, although I don't recommend it. And under Mississippi laws, we have statutory interest for late payments, and those are also included within your lien right. Now, this is simply repeating that the architects and professional engineers have a lien right, and the land surveyors also have a lien right, if any of you happen to be of those professions. Now, this is the section that I would put under the heading of dumb ways to die. It's some song my kids are very familiar with. And this is a way to make sure that you lose your lien right, okay? In Mississippi, you must have a certificate of responsibility if you're going to perform as a contractor at any tier on a project. We have a certificate of responsibility statutes for commercial contractors and also for residential builders and remodelers. And you're required, if you're submitting a bid on a public or private project, you're required to provide your certificate of responsibility number, which can only be issued by the Mississippi State Board of Contractors. So any project over $50,000, if it's a commercial job, you must have that even to submit an offer on a contract. The property owner can request that the contractor provide a list of all the subcontractors and materialmen that are going to be working on the job. And this is so that the owner will know in advance what who is going to be working on the project. And also the owner can check out to see if all of the people at all of the tiers have the required certificate of responsibility. And I would also add that if you're required to have a certificate of responsibility, but you do not have one, the contract you're trying to enforce is null and void, in addition to your lien right. So that's very important to check out before you come to do business in Mississippi. So if the owner requests the contractor or a subcontractor to provide the list of that entity's subcontractors or material men, you lose your lien right. You've got to provide the information that's requested. Also, this is a bit of a golden rule concept. You can't expect people to do right by you if you haven't done right by others. So if a contractor or subcontractor fails to pay their material men or subcontractors in accordance with their contract terms, they will forfeit their lien right. Now, this is a way that you can protect yourself. In fact, it's a way that you must protect yourself if you are not the actual prime contractor. We have a 30-day notice rule. And this doesn't have to be an ugly letter. It's just a notice letter. It can be friendly, and you simply are required to inform the contractor, or if there's not, if there is no prime contractor, then it must be the owner within 30 days after your first delivery of labor, services, or material. You must give written notice to the contractor, or again, if no contractor, to the owner. You can do it by email or certified mail, return receipt requested, but you have to give them notice that you are on the job. And if you do not, you will lose your lien right. If you are only doing residential construction, this 30-day notice requirement does not apply. Now, what do you have to include in this notice? You have to give identify your company, or you if you're an individual. You have to identify what you're doing, what you're providing, give the name of the project and the location of the project, and a description of the labor, services, or materials that you are going to provide. I would always say you've got to check the statute because it could change. Now, during the course of the project, you'll be submitting payment applications. And we have, these forms, they're not the actual required forms, but the statutes say you have to provide an interim waiver and release upon payment that is substantially similar to this. So we've just always used these that are suggested in our lien law statute itself. You've got one for the interim waiver and release upon payment, and you've got one for your final payment. Now, both of these have a very, very important provision that you should not forget. You see the notice? It's when you execute and submit this document, you shall be conclusively deemed to have been paid in the amount of the lien waiver, even if you have not actually received the payment 60 days after the date of your lien waiver. Now, so you submit your interim, your progress payment request with this lien waiver, and you calendar 60 days, and you check that calendar. Because if 60 days go by, the owner is entitled to presume that you have been paid, and you lose your lien right, unless within the 60 days, you either submit an affidavit of non-payment, you swear that out and submit it to the contractor or the owner, that you've not been paid, or you have to go ahead and file your lien. And I have a lot of clients that we routinely are filing these affidavits of non-payment, and then we just remove them later or give notice. But the 60-day presumption of payment applies to both all progress payments and the final payment. So you will lose your lien right. Now, there are ways to lose the lien before you even get the opportunity to have to file a lien. But these requirements here are for how you actually properly file the lien, or some other prerequisites to make sure that it's good. So if you fail to comply with all of these that are at our Mississippi Title 85-7-405, you will not properly have placed your lien. Now, again, this is a golden rule concept. You cannot file a lien if you are not in substantial compliance with the contract that you're performing. If you have defaulted, if you've abandoned the project, if you've taken an action that a court would deem to put you out of substantial compliance, then your lien will not be honored. Now, liens are to be filed in the chancery court of the county where the property is located. Mississippi has circuit courts, chancery courts, and county courts, and I think in most states the chancery courts would be the courts where the land records are maintained. Now, you cannot file a lien if you wait until more than 90 days after the last work is performed, the labor, services, or materials are provided. So these are calendar days, not work days. And it doesn't matter if the work that was last performed was just a little bit or a lot. You've got to file your lien within 90 days after the last date that you provided labor or materials. Now, don't get confused. You still have to comply with the 60-day payment requirement in the payment applications. So you submit your interim, your progress payment application. Don't wait 90 days to get paid. You still got that 60-day rule that's going to apply to the presumption of payment. So do not confuse by the 90 days versus the 60 days with respect to payment applications. Now, what does your lien have to include? Well, it's going to have to state who the lien claimant is, the amount of the lien, the description of the property, and when the money became due. You can modify the increase or decrease the amount of your lien once it's filed, but the original lien filing will relate back to the date of the first lien that was filed. And on each claim of lien, you must put this notice to the owner of the property that they have a right to contest the claim of lien pursuant to Mississippi law. And again, enforcement of the liens will be the subject of a different webinar, but what that would do, if the owner comes in to contest a lien, you have a shorter period of time in which to file a lawsuit to protect your lien. But those are the essential requirements for a lien. I strongly recommend that at the beginning of the project, you request a copy of a legal description of the property. That will tell you a lot, so that when if it comes time to file a lien, you won't be scrambling around for that information. Sometimes the address will do, but it's always better to have a legal description of where you're going to be performing the work or delivering materials. Then, after you have filed the lien, within 2 business days, you have to send a true and accurate copy of the claim of lien by either registered or certified mail or statutory overnight delivery. That's via the Postal Service or Federal Express, but it must be received by the owner and or the contractor within 2 business days after you have filed the claim of lien of record. And there's some additional information here if you cannot find the owner's address. But you must give this notice so that it is received within 2 days, 2 business days of the filing of the lien. Now, this is very important. You cannot lose your lien right if the contract that you're being asked to sign includes in it a waiver of a lien. In other words, if you have a contract with a prime contractor and it states that the subcontractor at the outset of the contract waives any and all rights to file a claim of lien, then that is null and void. You can only waive your lien right after the right to assert it arises and you fail to follow the Mississippi lien statute in enforcing it. Or you can lose your lien right by entering into a contract that would require you to have a certificate of responsibility, but you don't have one. You can lose it before, but you can't waive your right to a lien by signing a contract. That is the end of this presentation. And I would turn it over to Ariella if there are any questions.
Great, thank you so much, Lynn. You did such an incredible job in explaining everything. Let's go have a look and see if there are any questions. So far, we do not have any questions, but as you could see, her contact email and phone number is here. So if you have any questions, you could reach out to her. You could reach out to me at any time. Sometimes people have questions after a webinar, go, oh my goodness gracious, I forgot. So feel free to reach out to us after our webinar. And Lynn, on our next screen, we have a little QR code that if you want, you point your camera to the screen. I say camera, but it's really your phone these days, right? You point your phone camera to the QR code and you can give us a little Google review of what you thought about our webinar here. And then you can go to our next screen, which is our next webinars that Lynn will be providing, which what happens after I record my lien, how do I get paid, which is on March 30th. And don't sign a release unless it says this one thing. And you could sign up for those at sunraynotice.com/education. And our final screen, Lynn, again, this may have been what I would never have known it was your first webinar. I thought it was absolutely sensational.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And thanks everyone for attending. And I wish everyone a sunny day.
Thank you, Ariella. Thank you all for attending.